the Whizzy Dance, what happened when my side project started waking me up with the sound of sales. Today I want to go through my story on being an e-commerce and Amazon seller and how businesses start out and where they can go. Often with social media now, people post about their $100,000 a month, $250,000 a month, $1 million months, $50,000 mornings, and they don't really show you where these things started or how they got there. And I want to share this one to show you the place where these started, because often businesses start from very small beginnings. And you can even see above me there's actually a picture of one of our first products, and that was actually after round one of branding. Before we even started, it didn't even have a box, it was just in a plastic bag. And that's what I want to go through today, is explain what it looks like with Amazon e-commerce and tell you some of the stories and the pillars that made it work. So you can see here on the left, look, we got a bunch of boxes. We used to have boxes delivered to the front door. At one stage they were being stored in our outside toilet, another time up in our attic, and at different periods when I get a sale I'd actually put them on the back of my bicycle. And I remember one day trying to get out the door with my bicycle and it wouldn't fit through the door because there's too many boxes wrapped up. And then going from that to these days where we do a lot of trips with the family overseas each year, and the difference in the journey it's been with selling on Amazon primarily, but also in e-com. So with our story here, it started back in 2005, so it's a long time ago. You probably tell by my age that if I was selling in 2005, we actually started on a WordPress site, and it started really simple. Like this, I thought was an amazing site. It was a one product, which I'll show you over the page. It was on WordPress, and it was basically just a long form sales landing page. Didn't even have a video at the start. I think this one has a video. This is like version 2, but it didn't even have a video. It was super basic, and it probably reflected the sales that came in. Look, I was likely to get a sale every 2 weeks. They were mainly to US customers. I was living in Australia at the time. So you can see the product up on the top left. This is what the product, but it was one of the first insights. The product wasn't sexy, but it solved a problem that people didn't know how to solve. So this took stickers off cars, and people didn't know how to take stickers off cars. So it's a really common problem, but only a small amount of industry people, mainly panel beaters or mechanics, knew this tool to fix it. If you went to hardware stores or most places, you couldn't find it. And I actually found out about through a family friend. But I just want to show this. Like this is this is not even our first one, as I mentioned. Our very first product actually just came in a plastic poly bag with a product in the bottom left. This is when I actually did some branding on it. So this was our first attempt at branding. If you look at it, the branding's awful. But at least there was something put on the box. And there's a personalized note there, which people liked. It's talking about the dance we'll do and how every order comes from us. But the main thing I want to share with you is this site up the top. Probably got a sale every 2 weeks, so maybe every month I'd get 2 sales, and the product was only about, I think we launched at about $35 excluding shipping. So if you think about that, maybe $70 a month I'd get in sales when we started out. But the big difference for me, I went to a seminar, took some action, and I got something in. And the first time I got a sale, it was really cool. I woke up and went, wow, money was in my PayPal account. It was so cool. I think I only had 10 units of this thing and I sold one, and I was pretty excited. But even then, the shipping took 3 weeks. I used to get the ship it via Australia Post. So now on Amazon, look, sometimes delivery comes that night. This is almost 18 years ago. Back then, almost 20, I'd ship it via the post office, and it would take 3+ weeks. A lot of the times the orders were lost. People didn't know what was going on, and it was a really slow process. But it didn't really bother me much because we were making progress. I had something online, and it felt fantastic. It's funny that a major breakthrough came by adding video, and this is something common today. People put products online, they don't have a video, but we went from selling maybe 2 products a month to getting 1 to 2 sales a day, and for me that was massive. You can see one of the original videos here. This is not the original one. The original one got about, I think I checked the other week, about 250,000 views, and it was just taken on, it looked really crappy, like you can tell by the above. Distorted size. This is before the landscape imagery. It's pretty average. We redid and did some text overlay, and that improved it. But it was a major change. The first site didn't even have a video of the product. It's saying how great it was. But we put the video up, and I remember the sales went to 1 to 2 units a day, which for me was absolutely a game changer. I think here's a link you can see above if you want to see one of the original ones. But for me, it was like, wow, tested something, it worked, and got a huge change. So I was pretty excited by it. What I realized here, this is the updated one. See down the bottom, it's got the text overlay. This one had about 250,000 views. And for someone who's only getting 1 or 2 sales a month, getting the 250,000 videos on YouTube was a bit of an eye-opener. I didn't even realize until I checked about 5 years later, because all we had it was on the site, and we linked it and we played it through by embedding it. It was getting about 250,000 views when we checked, and that was amazing. But the concept of going from 1 to 2 sales a day to 1 to 2 sales a month to one to two sales a day was for me amazing, and it was a big insight saying you got to test stuff. Something that you may or may not think work can lead to big swinging doors. Also back then it was super simple, like that anything we could do to get traffic, and it's the same as these days. Selling online, selling on Amazon there's two things that cause your sales. It's either traffic, you don't have enough traffic, or your conversion isn't great. Our site barely had any traffic. Anything we could do really was SEO, and back then it was just really simple backlinking. We used to pay a VA a few dollars US an hour, and they'll just do backlinks, and that sort of kept us on page 1 of Google, and then we'll get the commission, the traffic through that way once they land. So it was really simple, super model then. And it was really interesting feeling back then. When we used to wake up, I remember waking up during the middle of the night and I'd check my phone to see if there's a notification from PayPal for an order, and if there was, I would get so excited by it. We actually do a Whizzy Dance. It was a dance I'd do because I got so excited by getting a sale. And then what we did each year, we had these fake Christmas parties. We call them these annual Whizzy parties, and I would give out awards. And we had no customers that I ever met. It was just for some friends I invited. We'd get dressed up. But it embedded one of the principles about celebrating successes. And as the business grew, the celebrations got bigger. But it was just something that we did where we wanted to have fun to celebrate it. It was at the time, there's no ambitions to grow this into a business that down the track could be scaled up and sold to a private equity firm. It was just something that was really cool. I wanted to do it, and it was interesting. It was around the same time that Tim Ferriss, I think around the same era where he launched his first 4-hour work week, and a lot of that talked about having a muse. A muse is where you have a side hustle which is automated, doesn't take up much time, but brings in a passive income. And it'll lead, as I mentioned in the next video, about traveling to Central America and be able to take time off and really enjoying that and having a way to bring money in at a future. So at the same time, I still had a corporate job. I was in like IT consulting. It was through my own business, but it was still a 9-to-5 job. And I'll go into this later about mindset as well, about even when the business grew into a significant size, I still had the mindset of needing a 9-to-5. And it was funny, I'd actually go to the post office each day during my lunch break and drop the orders off. So the orders would come overnight. I put them all in the plastic bag, so the envelope, put them in a big carry bag, ride my bicycle to the office, and then at lunchtime I'd go down and drop them in the post office. And these were the days where they had to get the address, I would weigh them, and people hated being behind me because I'd turn up when we got better sales. There was maybe 2 a day, but if it was over the weekend, I'd go in the Monday, there may be 6 or 8 sales, and I had this like bag load of sales would go in, and I'd pay for it, and then they'd get shipped off, not knowing if they'll turn up or not, taking up to 3 weeks to get there. But it was a really exciting time. I absolutely loved it. Going in there on a Monday morning with a bunch of orders was one of the most exciting times, and that's why I put it in there. There was no structure to it. It was just something, an idea and a concept. And it was quite fortunate we started with a product that wasn't well known but solved a really good demand, and that later became a principle of selling products online. The only downside of this is that I knew there was potential for selling online, so this was really even before the Amazon FBA opportunity came out. I could see that we built it through, I got someone to build on WordPress, it was through PayPal. I could see there was a concept here. E-commerce was in its really early days. I remember back then, like big brands were launching e-commerce sites, and for very basic sites, they were spending $250,000, $500,000 on sites today that you could get for Shopify for next to $30. So there was huge money going there, and I knew there was potential about it, but I just didn't know how to scale it. There was a couple of issues there. Fulfillment time was so slow, like to get customers' orders in 3 weeks. It wasn't a great scalable business. Also, the way of actually going to a post office and dropping off orders, it wasn't really scalable. If you wanted to send out 500 orders a day, you couldn't do that from your local post office with little bags. I didn't have a courier or a dispatch network, and we couldn't get enough traffic. There wasn't a platform to bring traffic. The way to get more traffic I looked into at the time was through Google Ads, but it just wasn't economical. If you're paying $1.50 a click, I remember looking at it, even though this was early days, the clicks were quite expensive. And if you're paying a couple of dollars for a click, and your conversion rate, even at 5%, so that says 1 in 20, you're paying about $50, $60 to get a sale, and our profit was only, if you're selling a product for $30 odd, the profit was nowhere near that. So there was no way to scale it, but it did sow the seed that there was a way to grow a business online. And I just want to share with you that how, if you look back at this, how basic the business started out. The branding was terrible. The boxes looked awful. If you look back at the website, like here, like it is a really plain, boring site. The product was, the packaging, if you look up the top here, like this is absolutely terrible, but that's where it started. And even to get maybe like 2 sales a month, you'd think, okay, I'm going to give up on that. And for me, it was really enjoyable. I didn't know the direction to go, but it was something I wanted to do. So I'll go through this in about 6 pages, and the next chapter was about 4 years later. In about 2009, I took a year off to travel through South America, and shortly after that, discovering the Amazon platform, and that's when things didn't change in a material way, but I sort of saw the light bulb of saying, okay, there is some potential here. Thanks, guys. I'm going to do a bunch of these over the next 6 days about the full journey from starting out, from doing 1 order to 2 sales a month, to scaling up to multiple brands across 7 figures, and how we actually exited that to a private equity firm. I just want to show you this partly to explain that out there, these things start, often they look ugly, but over time, having process, you can grow these things up, and just want to share my journey with you guys and welcome feedback or comments about this. See you in tomorrow's story.